Hey guys, it's Jango here with Jango Health and Fitness, and I have a very special friend on board. And I've chat this evening, and his name's Becki Houlston. And how I come to meet Becki is basically just for was it networking, Becki? Was it, or how do we meet initially? Was it for a friend? I can't really remember.
I think we kept coming. Our names kept being mentioned to each other through our clients and
Oh,
through
I
the.
remember through email, wasn't it? You read one of my blogs.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's basically how Becki has come to help me and my clients basically, just with their goals, with their values, and I recently let Becki come on board one of my 60 transformations, and she basically gave us sort of a little teaser of what she does, and it was phenomenal to listen to her speak, and actually she was very eye opening at what the stuff she talked about values and goals and how to unlock your full potential. And so I just wanted to, I brought Becki on board tonight just to have a quick chat, just to ask some questions for her. Sorry, for you guys to listen into, really. So, hello, Becki. Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks, Jango.
And my pleasure, my pleasure. And just to start off with, just to introduce yourself to the listeners, who are you and what's your story?
Well, as you've nicely introduced me, I'm Becki Houlston, and I've got the title of the UK's People Whisperer.
Very cool.
I got that label because I had an accident some years ago, and I spent 3 years in silence. So therefore, I was just observing human behaviour for those 3 years, and I learnt to see a lot in people
Right.
that normally get missed when you're busy trying to get into a conversation.
Absolutely, yeah.
Coupled that with a lot of training, and I now work to help people to overcome stress and anxiety and get their smiles back.
Fantastic, fantastic. And you are very busy, aren't you? I mean, you've been on TV as well. You've been mentioned in the past.
Yes, I do a lot. For me, I've learned so much life-changing information. Some of it very simple, but you just don't know it. So, I look for as many opportunities and try and create as many opportunities to be able to share that information with others. So, magazines, television, radio,
Yeah.
all of that, are great ways of passing on the favour.
No, brilliant. Absolutely, I totally agree. Totally agree. I've just put some questions together regarding what would people want to hear. So, my second question to you is, what stops most people from getting or achieving their goals? Do you think?
Number one, actually not wanting it enough.
Okay, I agree with that one.
Which sounds strange when you're looking in the mirror, particularly when it comes to a fitness or weight loss goal, for example, or a financial goal for some people. Yes, they want it because they want to get out of the pain that they're in, but they only want it enough to get out of pain. They don't actually want to achieve the goal enough.
Yeah, yeah.
And very often it's because they want something else more, and that can be an emotional need. So maybe by not fulfilling the goal, is fulfilling an emotional need, which is more important to them than the weight loss or the fitness goal. Now, let me give you an example of that.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
I worked a few years back with a professional boxer, and he had, he got himself some, a good quality of profession.
Yeah.
He'd retired for a few years. And then he decided he wanted back in, and he wanted back in to get some fairly big titles. Only he was then trying to get back into peak, professional athlete condition, which had never been a problem for him in the past. And his motivation to get back fighting was enormous. That was absolutely 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
However, his commitment to his fitness, he was struggling with. He just was self-sabotaging all the way along the way, and he couldn't understand why he just couldn't get on with it, as it had never been a problem to him in the past. And we did some work together, and actually what we discovered was that previously, before, when he'd been in peak condition, he had been married, and he had been very, got a lot of attention from the opposite sex because of, the good condition that he was in, and, what he did. And since then, he, really was in a loving family relationship. Mm-hmm. So deep down, he wanted his family more than he wanted to fight. And so that was preventing him from getting into peak physical condition.
Gotcha.
He was worried that he wouldn't be able to, he was relating to the past.
Yeah.
Just by, working with that and getting that changed around for him, set him free to realise, it sounds simple, but if the brain is telling you something different, that he could have a loving family and still get himself in peak physical condition. He had to learn, he had to learn what was more important to him.
Yeah, sure. Like, I'm guessing that's values and
Oh, all of that.
Yeah.
So sometimes, for example, a lot of people who are looking to lose weight, actually, food is security and safety and comfort.
Oh, yeah, totally agree. Yeah.
It's comfort that they want more.
Yeah, it's like a reward as well. A lot of clients have food as a reward for something as well, which is
which is a conditioning, from childhood.
Yeah, absolutely.
It can be changed. In my book, there is no such thing as hard wiring. The brain has elasticity to change.
Yeah.
But also the inner conflicts is what stops people from achieving most goals. And sometimes the goals aren't big enough.
Yeah.
Some people are aiming for weight loss when actually they need a bigger goal.
It needs to be specific. Yeah, I've got loads of examples I can give you. Like weight loss in general is not specific enough. You need to be really targeted. Think of a target. Think of a goal. Maybe it's marriage. Maybe it's to improve your sex life, relationships.
Yeah.
So it's I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. Sorry.
And for other people, the goal's too big, and therefore the fear of failure will prevent them from believing they can achieve that goal. So in which case they need, to break that down a bit.
Like the fear side of things, when clients take that first step and break through that fear, there's still fear there because, they worry about the food. What's the food going to be like? Am I going to be able to eat it? Am I going to like it? What's the exercise going to be like? So fear is hugely impacted on goals and achievement, really.
Definitely. And I think that another one of the biggies is it has a profound, when you set your mind on something and you achieve it, for some people it can have a profound effect on their sense of who they are. Particularly when it comes to changing your appearance or changing your job or changing where you live.
Yeah.
In that, who am I now? And sometimes the unknown prevents people from trying something and going for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's self-sabotage or protecting yourself from, like you said, the unknown.
Yeah, well, generally it's protecting yourself from yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So it's like having two warring children, and you have to sit down with both parts and go, right.
Right. Thanks for that. Next question. So, now that you talked about achieving people's goals, how can we overcome them, or how overcome a specific goal?
Well, it's back to our conversation. It moves on from what stops most people from achieving those goals. Really, you've got to want it. You've got to want it somewhere right deep down. And any interference that you present, you've got to tackle.
Yeah.
Interference. And also find a big enough goal that really does light you up. If goals you're aiming for, maybe they're not your goals, maybe they're your friends' goals, and you think you should have those goals too.
Yeah.
When actually maybe your goal is to be something entirely different.
Can you give me an example about yourself, for example, how you progress on through the goals that you want to achieve? Sorry.
Yeah, now learning to goal set was quite groundbreaking for me, because seriously, I never had worked out that I could aim for something and achieve it. It took me till I was about 30 to work that one out. I wish someone had, told me that when I was much younger.
Yeah.
So for me, I think the big one is you've got to write them down.
Okay, yeah, I agree.
What they want to achieve, and they'll say, I kind of know in my head. You've got to write it down. When the brain sees it written down on the piece of paper, it becomes something the brain wants to do.
And what I like to have an input in there, like when you write stuff down, you don't get clogged up. You don't get like this cloud in your head of all these ideas and all these things you want to do. When it's written down, you can see it. You sort of empty your mind a bit, and it's a bit more refreshing to see it on something instead of just clouding it in your head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a bit like how people use their computer screens. You've got folk that have about 15 screens open at one time, all minimised down the bottom.
Yes. So,
at some point, that's going to have a problem.
How
many screens is too many?
I think two or three is plenty. I've got I use like a simple tool on the Mac called Simple Mind 3, and it's like a little brainstorming thing. So you can just express ideas, or if you come up with a project or a goal, you can write it down. You can lead down to something else. So it just helps free your like the title of the thing, Simple Mind 3, helps free your mind of all the ideas that you're coming up with.
Absolutely, and once you've written them down, then you can helicopter viewpoint them, which also helps you to overcome some of the barriers that can present themselves when you decide you want to go for something.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you said barriers, it reminds me of when I first had to stand up in front of 30 people to speak. I mean, that was a huge barrier. That was a huge step I had to take, and it wasn't great, but I did it, and I've learned from it, and I've become that much better at speaking in front of people. So it's a similar sort of thing, really. Yeah.
Absolutely, but it's that critical point where you decide you're going to get over the barrier.
Yes,
The barrier is invisible anyway and created by your mind. So
yes, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
That's where it becomes.
It was the fear of what they're going to think of me. It stopped me originally, but I just thought, you know what? If I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. So I had to get on with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a time to jump yourself in the deep end and just go for it, and then learn from the experiences.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
But the other thing, is picture yourself achieving the goal. Most people come instantly up with 100 problems and reasons why they can't do it, and reasons that are difficult, and what might happen, what could happen. If you can picture yourself doing the goal, as Walt Disney, I think, said, if you can dream it, you can do it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And there's a part of the brain that is a bit like a 7-year-old, and it doesn't understand the difference between an imagined situation and a real situation. So when people are thinking negative things, when you think, if I lost my job, then I might lose my home, then I might lose this. In that moment, that part of the brain is imagining what it would be like. And then that's when you get that horrible feeling in your stomach and anxiety. Yet, you haven't left the armchair. So use that part of the brain in the positive way by imagining and really picturing yourself achieving that goal.
Yeah.
Because it really does start wiring up the brain to go get it. It's a bit like dangling the dog biscuit in front of the dog and then go, come on, let's go get it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing I'd go for is, break your goal. It's great to have a great big goal, and then you need to break it down into small steps.
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to reward yourself along the way, and reward yourself in emotionally rather than with food.
Maybe the holiday, for example.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some people, it's only when the holiday comes that they then create the goal.
Yeah.
So it becomes a case of beating yourself to get there. If I don't do this, then this won't happen. Rather than saying, you know what? When I get to holiday, I want to feel healthy, I want to feel fantastic, and I want to feel confident about my body. It's a very different message than using fear to beat yourself to get somewhere.
No, I totally agree, totally.
And talk to other people about your goals. I'd say it's so important. When you can share with others what's important to you in life, people who help you and support you show up. People also show up that sometimes want to keep you the same.
Yeah. I can relate to that in a way, because when I initially became self-employed and launched Jango Health and Fitness, and before I had a mentor and a business coach, I felt quite alone. I didn't have any friends on the same wavelength. But when I hired a mentor and when I met all his mentoring clients, I connected and I told my stories, told my goals, told my vision, and told people about myself and how I feel. And it opened me up. It really did.
Oh, it's so important to talk about your goals, even if they seem like, absolutely ridiculous. I mean, just recently I went and I was filming a little thing for something, and I was chatting to the camera guy about what I really want to achieve, which is making life-changing television shows, and turns out the guy is friends with someone who's high up in new programmes in the BBC, who said, send me your treatment, which is, the media words for a pitch.
Yeah.
Send me your treatment and I'll put it straight into the head of new programmes for the BBC for you.
Fantastic.
Now, if I hadn't been talking about what I was passionate about, that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, so be who you want to be, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, speak your mind.
Share it with others. We're all too, in the UK, we're brilliant at sharing our moans.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
You walk anywhere, queue up in the supermarket, someone wants to, almost create rapport and friendliness by sharing their moans. Well, we could equally do that, sharing what matters to us.
Yeah, absolutely. What mindset top tips would you give someone to help them stay focused with their own goals?
Number one, get rid of excuses.
Perfect. Love it. Absolutely love it.
And they are excuses.
Absolutely love it. Perfect.
And they are excuses. Even that one that you're thinking now is an excuse and a reason. You know, it's a waste of energy. And, you know, we can be very clever with ourselves about justifying what really is excuses. Like the biggest excuse is I haven't got time.
Yeah,
it's a classic one used by businessmen and women. Well, I haven't got time. Well, each and every one of us has 24 hours.
Totally.
There's nobody that doesn't have 24 hours in their day.
Yeah.
It's a case of how you choose to invest those.
How you prioritise your day and how you organise yourself. Yeah.
And, you know, your life strategies will eat into your time. You know, if you have an inability to say no to people, then you are more likely to have your time stolen from you.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I've really recently learned myself. Just learn to say no, and you will become happier as a person. Yeah.
And there's some other people that need to learn to say yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Stop pleasing everybody and please yourself sometime.
Yeah. And you know, and allow others to help you. Ask for help. It's all those sort of things that mean that quite often our time gets taken away. And, you know, you look at how much time people spend on social media, all of which I think is great in the right context, but we've become slaves to a little ding on our phone and suddenly, what is it? What's happening? And all of those minutes add up. Yeah. So definitely get rid of excuses and reasons, even if they seem valid. I can remember I was recovering from, quite a significant illness, and surgeries, etc. And I can remember saying to myself, can't go to the gym because I've had, I've got stitches and surgery and everything. And, for a while that was, a very real situation. But then I was aware that it was lingering as an excuse. And, to anyone else, I could say what I'd been through and they'd be like, oh yeah, no, you mustn't, that's quite fine. But actually I knew that there was something that I could do. Yeah, and you did it. And I did it. I had to realise that it was an excuse, and I had to, in order to realise that, it's point 2, be honest with yourself. Yeah, okay, very nice. By being honest with yourself, you're keeping yourself out of denial, and denial is where most people reside that aren't achieving what they want to achieve. Yes. Anyone who's a smoker is brilliant at denial. Because in order to not hear your body and your lungs screaming from the toxins that you put in, you have to be able to override that, and that's denial. Gotcha. So, I'm just picking on smoking there, but it comes from us all. It's being honest with ourselves. It doesn't matter what you tell another person, but make sure you are being honest with yourself. So, can you sort of give us an example of food? So, if for example, someone's growing up not having greens as a kid, as a teenager, and when it comes to their adulthood, they're overweight, they want to lose weight, but they're not prepared to eat the greens because of that sort of emotional connection to, I guess, the food they've grown up with. In that context, very often it can be about control. Grown up Jane is still trying to assert control by not eating the greens. And it's almost like still running a 3-year-old's control strategy, and it just needs to be upgraded to one that supports you. Gotcha, okay. Does that make sense? Yeah, I understand it, but, maybe go into a bit more detail. Yeah, certainly. So, our thoughts create our experiences, our beliefs. All of our actions in life come from our beliefs. What we believe to be true about life. Yeah. For every single human being, they'll have an individual network of beliefs. Just, no one else will have the network of beliefs that you do. So for some people will believe that, relationships hurt, for example. Yeah. Somebody else will believe that relationships are wonderful. And depending on your belief will create how you show up. And the thing is, most people think that the situations create the beliefs. Gotcha. And that's one of the biggest things to get your head round. So if you believe that you're too tired... You will be. You will be. Yeah, I agree. And I think I read a status on Facebook recently. I'm a bit of a Facebook junkie as well for the business and everything else. But I read a status saying the biggest toxin in the 21st century
isn't food, but it's your mind. And it's the way you think that's going to cause a lot of hormonal effects in your body, and it's going to make you depressed, make you feel tired. It's your mind that controls your body. That's the biggest toxin in the current 21st century.
Oh, I would second that. I've got a software now. Actually, I have to come and play with it. That measures your stress minute by minute, and you can change things on the screen by changing your thoughts.
Wow. Okay. Very good.
So that actually shows how the stress hormones are released by your thoughts, which have an impact on your whole physical well-being.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's really important to be honest with yourself. Most people are honest with themselves in their faults or what they believe are their faults, but they're not honest with themselves about what they can do.
Yeah.
So it's putting that into a positive, as well as being honest about what isn't working for you.
Mm-hmm.
So the other, stop beating yourself up. When it comes to goals, you've got people, I deal with some very high achievers sometimes in my one-on-one sessions. And they're like, right, I've done this, I've done that. I've worked this many hours, and it's still, this isn't working. And they're frustrated. If you've gone to frustrated, the chances are you're probably beating yourself up somewhere. And there's nothing more off-putting than to your motivation department than being spoken to badly by you. Most of us, our set is called your self-talk, and everybody talks to themselves. That's perfectly normal. If 20 people answer back in your head, then there might be a problem. It's perfectly normal to talk to yourself. And everyone's got that sort of inner wisdom, which is gut instinct.
Yeah.
And it's important to tune into that. But, for most of us, if we spoke to another human being like we do to ourselves, they wouldn't hang around for long.
Yeah. I've got to think of a client. I'm not going to mention her name, but when she started, she was obviously very frustrated, very unconfident, and had a lot of fear about pursuing her goals. But as she did start to lose the weight, she always kept on pushing further to achieve those goals, but didn't give herself the acknowledgement of what she had already achieved.
Yeah.
And just went into more frustration, more stress, and then the food was becoming more challenging because she was getting demotivated, and it took a real good 12 months to make her realise that just to sit down and just look at herself and how far she's come. Yeah.
But a lot of people on their conquest to achieve.
Oh, hang on 2 secs.
To stop along the way and encourage themselves.
Yeah, I agree.
Weirdly enough, it's often the people that are most encouraging to others that are the hardest on themselves.
Gotcha. Okay.
So stop beating yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can change how you feel by changing your thoughts.
I totally agreed. Yeah, totally agreed.
I always sort of springs to mind. I don't know if you remember that character Dobby from one of the Harry Potter movies.
Yes, yeah.
Thing that would be like, every time he did something, he'd bang his head against the wall and go, "Bad Dobby, bad Dobby."
Yeah.
If there's a bad Dobby in you, get rid of it.
Okay, gotcha. So we got 1, 2. Have you said 3 yet or not?
Yeah, that was stop beating yourself up.
Okay, perfect. Cool. Have you got a 4th tip, or is that roughly everything?
I think the key ones are getting rid of excuses and reasons.
Yeah.
Be honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Encourage yourself over beating yourself to get somewhere.
Yeah.
And involve other people. I think one of the best things you can do to help you to stay focused is involve other people. We become like the people we hang around with.
Yeah.
It's true. So surround yourself by people that support your highest intentions for yourself.
Totally.
Yeah, and that will help hold you accountable.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's really important too. It's about involving others.
So you mean more get around instead of just reading books or staying crammed on the computer? Get out there, meet people, or stay with your friends, or meet new people.
Yeah,
and express how you feel and what you want to do in life.
All of that, share your goals with your friends. Say, right, I want to achieve this by this date. It's also very important to put a date on things.
Yeah.
I want to achieve this by this date.
Mm-hmm.
The brain needs to know how important this goal is. Is this a goal for 15 years' time, or is this a goal I need to get working on now?
Yeah.
So you need to tell the brain, by giving it a date of by when you want to achieve this goal.
And a good way to record that, sorry, and a good way to, well, we talked about writing it down. So write the goal down and you can actually plan and achieve it. So if it's 15 years' time, you know that's 15 years later, so you don't have to focus on it now, you can focus on the more important tasks at hand.
Absolutely. But either way, getting it out will clear up some of the head.
Yeah, I've got a nice big vision board I put all my goals up at the moment, which is handy.
Me too.
Yeah, which works very well. And just last question then, Becki, what's the single best piece of wisdom you could share with others?
Oh, definitely. The man who says he can and the man who says he can't are both right.
Okay, I think I know what you mean.
So if you believe you can...
You can. Oh, if you believe... Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, gotcha.
And if you believe you can't, you'll also be right.
Yeah. And how did you come up with this, the wisdom, this tip?
Because for me, it just, it simplifies how powerful our thoughts are. It's something that you hear sort of high-fiving gurus bandying around, and, you pick up a book and people are telling you, think positive. But actually, your thoughts create your experiences. If we all really, really fully understood that, we would be hoovering out our thoughts, as soon as we had something that didn't support us.
Yeah.
So, really set yourself up for success by believing that you can.
Perfect. Thank you very much for the call, Becki. And, before I go, hang on, let me just log on, because I did ask on Facebook earlier on, saying to people if any questions, and I think there are one or two good ones here. Let me just pull these up a sec.
Oh, brilliant.
Here we go. So, right, Louise Sander asked how to cope with stressful situations getting in the way of healthy eating and training. So, how would she cope with stressful situations getting in the way of healthy eating and training?
Okay, it comes back to reasons. It comes back to excuses and reasons.
Okay, perfect.
When you are totally focused on something, nothing will stop you. And that. For some, that does seem idealistic. But if you imagine someone gave you £1 million check that you had to make and put into the bank for 10 o'clock that morning, and you might have to walk 2 miles to do it, it wouldn't matter what happened that morning. Most people would find a way to get there.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it is about looking... First of all, it's about looking how you deal with stress.
Mm-hmm.
And helping to understand how you respond to stress and changing how you respond to stress.
Yeah.
Stress is, I think, something like 75% of stomach illnesses come from stress.
I mean, IBS as well. I mean, when someone's stressed, isn't it right that the blood actually leaves the digestive system, and it actually clogs up your whole bottom half. Sorry, so you can't hit the loo properly.
And stress is a big problem.
Yeah.
And it's a very real thing. If you are feeling stressed, being told to stop being stressed isn't going to help.
Mm-hmm. What were your words? Don't use the word don't. Instead, relax.
It's about focusing on how you relax. How you deal with stress has a lot to do with your coping strategies.
Yeah.
And sometimes they just need to be, looked at and upgraded for better coping strategies.
And I'm gonna have an input here. Being the healthier you are, from my personal experience, the better it is to cope with stress.
Agreed.
That's the major fact. That's what I've learned, and that's what I've experienced through clients' journeys. Really, if they get healthy, the stress it comes off their shoulders big time.
And it's a mind and body thing. It's very much related. So as much as you can use the mind, calm the mind to reduce the stress, you can also use the body to calm the mind.
Yeah.
And it's a balance of the two.
Yeah.
But even if you feel you can't do anything about the circumstances that are causing you stress, I promise anybody they can feel differently about it.
Okay, perfect. All right, next question. How do you get yourself going, and how do you get over that hump? I mean, it's quite a short question, but I'll repeat again. How do you get yourself going, and how do you get over that bump?
Okay, to get yourself going, you've got to commit.
Perfect, all right.
And that's what's missing sometimes, is the commitment. You've got to make a decision that this is what you want, then you've got to commit to it, and then you've got to take action. They're the three things. So you've got to decide, commit, and take action. And most of the time, one of those is missing.
One last question, and just from Elaine Mutter, is how to stop falling off the healthy eating wagon and stay focused. Any tips on that?
I would say...
I'll have an input. It's difficult because when you've got cravings, when you've had junk food for say 6-7 months, it's about committing to it, as you said before. Because if you want to get over that hump, you've got to commit. And so two questions can relate really, because Elaine wants to obviously get healthy, but she struggles to make that commitment to say no to chocolate at work, say no to cakes at work, say no to junk that's being offered to her. So I think those two questions are pretty much the same person, and you might agree.
In which case, I would say then probably I couldn't comment on her individually, as I've not spoken to her. But from what you've said, it sounds like being liked is more important than herself.
Okay, all right.
And so therefore, the goal isn't as important as the need to be liked or to fit in or to join in with everyone else.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I guess you can call it peer pressure. I guess the teenage word.
Yeah, and again, we in the same way that could work another way. That I've had a friend of mine who would definitely was partial to a few cakes, but ran around a lot. So figure-wise, seemed to get away with it.
Yeah.
Then moved to a new office where actually everyone was really health conscious.
Yeah.
And the influence of the majority being very healthy conscious changed her habits.
Yeah, so it's the people you hang around with, as you said before. So surround yourself with the people that are different, and that will influence yourself.
Yeah, very much. And if but also you can take the people around you with you by being stronger in your own self-direction. You can influence other people to make changes in their lives.
Absolutely. Any last words you want to mention, Becki?
That also, it's about being consistent with any kind of achievement. Particularly with the impression the media gives these days that any kind of success or achievement is overnight. It's about, we've been left with this belief that if you haven't changed something or increased something or got wealthy overnight, then you're a failure. When in actual fact, for lasting change, it takes time.
Yeah, it does.
It takes, it's that, make that decision, commit take action,
yeah,
and be consistent.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of the story of the hare and the tortoise. It's equally as damaging to your emotional well-being to binge on anything.
Yeah.
So look at putting balance into your life.
Perfect. Well, thank you for taking the time to come on this call tonight, Becki.
You're welcome.
And I hope the viewers enjoy the call. And before we go, how can people get hold of you if they need to get in touch?
Oh, I'd be delighted to, take any queries from anybody.
Yeah.
And they can get in touch with me through my website, which is beckihoulston.com. And that's spelled BECKIHOULSTON. Or just fling that into Google and you'll find me.
Perfect, cool. Well, as always, thanks again, and I'll probably speak to you soon, Becki.
Many thanks, Jango.
Pleasure. Take care. Bye.